County Service Area M28. And I'm assuming Ms. Johnson is on the Zoom. Thank you so much, Ms. Johnson, for being so patient.
Of course, my pleasure.
So take it away.
Before you today is a board order and resolution 2022-122, in which the board confirms the fiscal year 2022-2023 tentative annual report for County Service Area M28. And the board assesses service charges in the report, but does not levy them. There is an allowance to adjust the service charge annually from the base CPI for the San Francisco Bay Area, all urban consumers. The increase is 5.19%, and it is proposed based on the projected expenditures to charge the maximum rate for fiscal year 2022-2023, which is $118,407.56 for this one parcel. We ask that the board open the public hearing, receive and consider all public comments on the fiscal year 2022-2023 tentative annual report, close the public hearing, approve the estimated charges, direct the Public Works Director or designee to present a final report to the board that conforms to the official assessment rule for fiscal year 2022-2023, and approve the remaining recommendations in the board order, including the adoption of resolution number 2022/122.
I'm opening the public hearing on item D3. Do I have any comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, do we have any public comments? Seeing none and hearing none, I will close the public hearing and look to Supervisor Burgess for the motion.
In that, so I'll do the second.
I did it electronically at one point, but whatever turns out.
Okay,
Okay, I did it. Well, never know.
Did you move? Because it's moved by Anderson, seconded by Burgess. I can't vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Moving on to item D4, I will open the public hearing on the fiscal year 2022-23 tentative annual report for County Service Area M30 in Alamo Springs. Ms. Johnson.
Thank you. Before you today is a board order and resolution 2022/123, in which the board confirms the fiscal year 2022-2023 tentative annual report for County Service Area M30, and the board assesses charges in the report but does not levy them. There is an allowance to adjust the maximum service charge annually for the base CPI to reflect the prior year's change in the San Francisco Bay Area All Urban Consumers Price Index, plus 2%. The increase is 5.19% for 2022 to 2023, and it is proposed to charge the maximum rate of $1,537.57 per parcel. We ask that the board open the public hearing, receive and consider all public comments on the fiscal year 2022-2023 tentative annual report, close the public hearing, approve the estimated charges, direct the Public Works Director or designee to present a final report to the board that conforms to the official assessment rule for fiscal year 2022-2023, and approve the remaining recommendations in the board order, including the adoption of resolution 2022/123.
Thank you. Public comment? I see no one in the chambers. I see we do have one caller.
We do have one caller.
Caller, your line has been unmuted. You have 2 minutes to state your comment.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. The jumping around of the agenda is very confusing. And I don't think as the public I quite understand D3 and D4. By approving D3 and D4, the consequence for a public like me is that my tax will be increased by 2% for D4. Is that how I'm understanding it?
Unless you live in that community, your taxes are not affected.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
All right. With that, I see no other public speakers. Supervisor Anderson, did you want to move this item?
And I already have.
You
Thank
probably
you.
already did.
I
I
did.
seconded it.
And it was seconded by Burgess. We can vote, please. And that passes 4-0. Supervisor Joya has left. His daughter is graduating from high school tonight, and so he had to leave. Item D5 is a hearing on the fiscal year 2022-23 tentative annual report for County Service Area M31, which is the Contra Costa Center Village. Ms. Johnson?
Thank you. Before you today is a board order and resolution 2022/124, in which the board confirms the fiscal year 2022-2023 tentative annual report for County Service Area M31. And the board assesses charges in the report but does not levy them. There is an allowance to adjust the maximum assessment rate from the base CPI to reflect the prior year's change in the consumer price index for San Francisco Bay Area all urban consumers. The increase is 5.19% for 2022 to 2023, and it is proposed to charge the maximum rate based on the projected expenditures. Those rates are developed residential at $80.57 per residential unit, and for developed commercial at 0.1418 per square foot. We ask that the board open the public hearing, receive and consider all public comments on the fiscal year 2022-2023 tentative annual report, close the public hearing, approve the estimated charges, direct the Public Works Director or designee to present a final report to the board that conforms to the official assessment roll for fiscal year 2022-2023, and approve the remaining recommendations in the board order, including the adoption of resolution number 2022/124.
Thank you. I will open the public hearing. I see no members in the audience. I see no public speakers. This is in my area, so I will move the item. And if moved by Mitchoff, seconded by Anderson, voting please. Motion passes 4-0. Thank you. Item D6, a hearing on the fiscal year 2022-23 tentative annual report for County Service Area T1. And this is in the Danville area. Ms. Johnson?
Thank you. Before you today is a board order and resolution 2022/125, in which the board confirms the fiscal year 2022-2023 tentative annual report for the County Service Area T1, and the board assesses charges in the report but does not levy them. The maximum assessment may be adjusted annually to reflect 2% or the prior year's change from the consumer price index for the San Francisco Bay Area all urban consumers price. The increase is 5.19% for fiscal year 2022-2023, and it is proposed based on projected expenditures to charge the maximum rate of $500.39 per developed equivalent dwelling unit. We ask that the board open the public hearing, receive and consider all public comments on fiscal year 2022-2023 tentative annual report, close the public hearing, approve the estimated charges, direct the Public Works Director or designee to present a final report to the board that conforms to the official assessment roll for fiscal year 2022-2023, and approve the remaining recommendations in the board order, including the adoption of resolution number 2022/125.
Thank you. I will open the public hearing. I see no members in the audience for public comment. I see no members in the phone or Zoom. And so I'm going to close the public hearing and turn to Supervisor Anderson, who has already moved the item. If someone would second that, please.
I second it.
Thank you. Moved by Anderson, seconded by Burgess. Please vote. Thank you, Ms. Johnson. I think we get to be finished with you.
Thank you. I appreciate your time this afternoon.
And now we'll move on to Mr. Rohner, because item D7 is a hearing on the levy of proposed assessments in existing zones of Assessment District 1979-3, which is LL2, there is a map and diagrams. This affects many portions of the county, but mostly Supervisor Glover's district. So I'm opening the public hearing, and Mr. Rohner, your staff report, please.
Good afternoon, Chairman Mitchoff and members of the board. Before you today is a consolidated report for Assessment District 1979-3, also known as LL2, which includes annual assessments for landscaping, irrigation, parks and recreation, and other improvements in the assessment district for fiscal year 2022-2023. Of the 32 benefit zones in the district, 8 have an assessment rates which may be adjusted annually per the Consumer Price Index for San Francisco Bay Area, all urban consumers. The annual assessments proposed for all 32 zones within the district are consistent with or below the maximum rates established within each zone. Proposed assessments for the assessment district for assessment district 1979-3 in the fiscal year 2022-23 will total $1,551,093.32. I ask that the board open the public hearing, receive and consider all public comments, close the hearing, accept the report, adopt the remaining recommendations in the board order, including the adoption of resolution number 2022/134, and direct the auditor controller to place the levy of the annual assessments on the tax roll for fiscal year 2022-23. Thank you.
Thank you. I see no commenters in the audience. I see no one raising their hand in public comment. Supervisor Glover has already moved, and Supervisor Anderson has seconded, and we will vote. Thank you very much.
Does that motion include closing the public hearing?
Yes, thank you so much. It did include closing the public hearing, did it not, Supervisor Glover? That's what I thought. Thank you so much. All right. And with that, we are on to our last item today, since we've already done D9, D10, and 11. We are doing D8, which is a hearing to consider adoption of Resolution 2022/200, confirming the Contra Costa County Flood Control and Water Conservation District stormwater utility assessments for areas 1 through 18 for fiscal year 2022-23. As recommended by our chief engineer. And Mr. Jensen from our Public Works Department is with us. Hello, Mr. Jensen.
Hello, good afternoon, Chair Mitchoff and members of the board. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Thank you. I am Tim Jensen, as stated earlier, with the Contra Costa County Flood Control and Water Conservation District. The matter before you as the governing board of the Flood Control District is the adoption of stormwater utility assessments for fiscal year 2022 to 2023. Revenue from these assessments fund the activities of the unincorporated county and 17 municipalities to comply with the requirements of the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System Municipal Regional Permit issued by the Regional Water Quality Control Boards. The Flood Control District was established as the agent for collection of stormwater utility assessments on behalf of the county and cities by state law in 1992. Stormwater utility areas have been established for the unincorporated county and 17 cities. Each year, the county and the cities determine the assessment rate in their respective areas. The Flood Control District has received resolutions from all of the city and town councils and the county board requesting adoption of stormwater utility assessment rates for fiscal years 2022 to 23. The engineer's report on file with the clerk of the board provides background on the requested stormwater utility assessment. On May 10, 2022, the board set a hearing date on adoption of the stormwater utility assessments for today, June 7, 2022. Notices of this hearing have been published in accordance with the pertinent government code, section 6066. I request that you open a hearing on this matter and consider comments, close the hearing, and then approve the recommended item. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jensen. I'm opening the public hearing. Seeing no one in our chambers who wishes to address us, and I see no one who has raised their hand in our telephone and or Zoom, I'm going to close the public hearing, and it has been moved by Supervisor Anderson and seconded by Federal Glover. Please vote. And that motion passes I believe 4-0. It'll come up in a minute. There we go. Thank you very much. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you again for sticking with us here. And we will now move on. There were no, item D12 is consider previous consent items. There were none. D13 is public comment for any item not on today's agenda. I don't see anyone in the chambers. I see one hand up in the callers.
And it looks like we also have Debbie Cooper, our clerk recorder, with her hand up.
Oh, good. I did see Debbie.
She's as a panelist, but she'll be able to announce herself when you call on her.
I see we have caller 1 and caller 6770, and then let's conclude with Debbie as our clerk recorder, because I'm sure she's going to encourage us and give us some information about voting.
Yes, so we will start with our callers.
Caller, your line has been unmuted. You have 2 minutes to state your comment.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so this is really a distress complaint. Today's meeting is most difficult to follow. The timings were completely different from agenda, and all the orders of the discussion items, everything was just taken out of order. I don't know why this was the case, but just so the supervisors know that it is extremely difficult to follow when you do this to the public. And you had said that you will come back at 2. We didn't start until like 2:30 or close to 2:40. That's really just not only a burden on the people who are waiting to start, but also on the public. I don't think whatever I say will matter much, but nevertheless, I just want you to hear it from our perspective. Thank you.
Caller, your line has been unmuted. You have 2 minutes to state your comment.
Yes, thank you. At the last board meeting, Supervisor Burgess mentioned the tragic Uvalde school shooting. What we've learned in the last week about the 18-year-old school shooter, Salvador Ramos, and certainly not part of the narrative of the mainstream Pravda American news services, but that he was, I would argue, or would anybody argue against the fact that he was mentally ill? And he was also the owner of a very expensive truck, body armor, ammunition, and weapons that cost thousands and thousands of dollars, probably upwards of $50,000 to $80,000. As a young man's employment at Wendy's wouldn't allow such purchases, and the fact that Uvalde is a border town with massive human trafficking operation run by cartels earning hundreds of millions of dollars, it is very probable that he was or had worked for drug cartels or involved in drug trafficking or human trafficking. The assault on children at Uvalde is quite probably an unintended cartel attack, nevertheless a cartel attack. Further, Supervisor Mitchoff, you have armed security. We've seen your deputy there in the chambers today. Banks have armed security. Why would children be put in an area that proclaims to be gun-free, or should we say, no self-defense zone? If the obvious invasion of our country by drug cartels that have caused over 100,000 deaths in the last year alone, or the invasion by millions of illegal immigrants, and now an attack on children, when will you recognize the danger is immediate and present? Also, further, look into the Dick Act of 1902, H.R. 11654, which is also known as the Efficiency of the Militia Bill. It deals with the prohibition of gun control. Thank you very much.
Caller, your line has been unmuted. You have 2 minutes to state your comment.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, yes, I had a couple questions here. What is the current protocol with the West County Unified School District regarding children and or their parents or the administrators in the schools reporting active COVID positive cases? Because one of my children or grandchildren came home with COVID last week, and I'm just kind of disappointed that they don't, with the Omicron pandemic variant going on, that they don't have more in-class and school strict protocols for for weekly testing in the school, because I'm almost sure she got it from another classmate in school, number one. And is there a way of tracking through the wastewater treatment plants like some counties are doing, like say for the Contra Pinole wastewater treatment plant? That's a modern plant that they can track how much COVID contamination is coming through the Hercules system and or separated from the Pinole system, because it's one big plant there, so we can get better, true, accurate numbers of what the situation is in the county with the COVID reported cases, because there's a lot of cases that are being unreported in the county as well as the state. And I think the Board of Supervisors should investigate to get those numbers to a more realistic situation there, because I believe it's something like 10 to 20-fold, including non-hospitalizations for people that aren't being tested and for people that aren't coming forward, like certain parents and so on, to report their cases to their doctors.
We will have our director, Anna Roth, at our meeting on June 21st as an agenda item to provide us with an update on COVID. I do know that that the epidemiologists, according to the newspaper over the weekend, is checking for bacteria and the virus, I guess this is a virus, at wastewater treatment plants in Contra Costa County. Supervisor Anderson.
No, and I was just going to recommend that, unfortunately, Supervisor Joya has left to go attend his daughter's high school graduation. But I think if you were to contact Supervisor Joya's office, he could help you with this. Of course, we don't oversee schools, so the more reliable place to go is to the West Contra Costa Unified School District, to their district headquarters, where they could answer your questions specific to the protocols they are following in the classroom. But we know it is rampant all over, and as you accurately point out, we do not have we have an undercount because there's so much self-testing going on. But for specific questions about county health, please contact Supervisor Joya's office, and I know he would be happy to help you.
Thank you. With that, I see no more public commenters. Our last item is board,
Debbie Cooper.
Debbie Cooper. Debbie.
Today on Election Day, we want to hear from Debbie.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I know you've been working over the weekend, and you've got a few more long nights ahead of you, so thank you for that and your service. But it's an exciting day for everybody.
Yes, busy. So I'm Debbie Cooper, Clerk Recorder and Registrar of Voters for Contra Costa. My public comment is a reminder to everyone that today is Election Day, and there's still time to vote, about 4.5 hours. I also want to let you know how this evening and next week will go. The Elections Division will be posting initial results right after 8 o'clock tonight, usually a minute or two after. This will include our vote-by-mail ballots that have been processed up to noon today and our regional early voting location ballots. Once ballots begin to arrive from the polling places, they will continue to be tabulated until we process all of the in-person voted ballots. We will update the totals every hour until they're done. We expect this to be about 1 o'clock in the morning based on our estimates. The best way to follow the elections results tonight is to sign into our results page at cocovote.us. You'll need to refresh your screen to see the most current results. That's a complaint we get often, but if you keep hitting refresh, you'll see the newest ones. To follow statewide races, you'll probably want to follow on the Secretary of State's website, because they compile statewide results, and the ones you'll see here is just for voters in Contra Costa County. So tomorrow we'll get together a count of all the ballots that we have in-house that are left to process. This will include vote-by-mail ballots that were received or turned in today, conditional voter registration, and provisional ballots. And I want to also shout out that as long as ballots get postmarked today, we can receive them for up to 7 days, and we will still include them in the count. So this is a statewide primary election where the top 2 vote getters will appear on the November general election ballot. But there are also county offices on this ballot, and several of our county races only have 2 candidates, which means that you will be deciding in this election, not in November, who will hold those offices for the next 4 years. If a candidate, one of our local races receives 50% of the votes plus one, they are elected to that office. It's one more reason to get out and vote in this election. So a month ago, we mailed out over 700,000 vote by mail ballots. There are still several 100,000 that have not been returned. I challenge anyone who hasn't voted to go find that ballot, either on your kitchen counter, by your computer, wherever it might be, fill it out, sign it, seal it, and get it back to us. You still have 4.5 hours. You can drop it in the mail, drop it in one of our 37 drop boxes, or at one of our polling places. You don't need a stamp, it's postage is paid. So, and also if you want to vote in person, there is still time. The location of your polling place is on the back of your voter information guide. You can also look up your polling place in the My Voter Information tool on our website, which is cocovote.us. And then thank you if you've already voted. Thank you for supporting this important civic process. So now go out and vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Debbie, and also a big thanks to your entire staff. I know this is what you're there for, but it's still, we want to thank you for you and your staff service. So with that, I don't see any other board members wishing to say anything, so we are adjourning again today in honor of Dr. Henry Clark and Ms. Joni Evala. Have a good evening, good night, afternoon.
Recording.